Now, I'm not going to talk too much about biofilms because after lunch, you're going to have a lecture from the world's expert in this area, Bill Costerton. So I'm going to keep my comments to biofilms fairly limited. Another major difference between chronic infections and acute infections is that chronic infections tend to be, in most cases, polyclonal, whereas acute infections are almost always monoclonal. So by polyclonal, I mean that you have multiple strains of the same species present at the same time. And you'll find out later on why this is so important. Chronic infections can also be polymicrobial versus single species, that is, multiple species, but they don't have to be. And the reason that polyclonality and perhaps polymicrobiality, if that's a word, are important is because it's this ability to generate diversity through horizontal gene transfer among the strains and between the species that are present in these chronic infections. And so that if you have horizontal gene transfer going on between the strains or between the species, you're constantly having mutation, you're constantly generating new strains, and some of those strains will have a selective advantage in the host. And so they're essentially staying ahead of the host, if you will. The host has an immune system, and then our immune system works by gene rearrangements, if you will, by mutation. And so this horizontal gene transfer for the bacteria acts as a counterpoint, if you will, to the host's adaptive immune response. And what I want to stress is that these acute-chronic dichotomies apply across all medical and dental disciplines. We started our work in otolaryngology looking at middle ear disease. We've now shown that the same thing works for adenoiditis. This is a picture of an adenoid. And every one of these colors, this is a fish, a fluorescence in situ hybridization. And every one of these colors on here represents a different bacterial species. So you can see that this is polymicrobial. You have many different species here colonizing or infecting these adenoids.